cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Oh. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to SimRacers World TV. My name is Hasse Rømer. I'm here with Edward May for round 3 of the SimracerCoin Sunday GT Masters. Also brought to you by Driver61, by the way. And it is indeed a pleasure to have you along here, Edward. Francorchamps, the best racetrack in the world. Of course, opinions are divided, but many an opinion falls in that category. How do you feel about the track we are visiting tonight?
Yeah, Francorchamps, a circuit that every single racing driver knows very well, and I'm certain loves to visit as well. Whether you're quick there or not, it's just a great track just to have a drive around, even if you're not on the pace. Just to be able to have a good race around this circuit, competitive as we often see as well in the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters. I reckon every single driver out on track is going to have a really great time.
Well, and it is one of those real drivers track. It has it has these flowy bits like a few other places, I'd say here. Matthew Forrest, quickest in practice so far and leading the championship as well. And I'll just cast a quick glance to the standings. We've got Matthew Forrest leading 51 points to his name. Koen Mulder, defending champion, second with 46. Gaston Macaroni is third with 44. Martin de Jong, who's also had some very good pace, a winner of the opening round, and then less fortunate last time around. That's 3 weeks ago by now. But nonetheless, Martin de Jong in fourth place in the standings, and 42 points, sharing that with Peter Plastow, and then Stephen Orrell on 37. So still a fair few drivers that could get a touch in on this. Valdez Suarez Jr. is up there as well with 29. And if any of you cast your mind back to last season's racing, Valdez Suarez Jr. was very much up there and in there all the way through, all the way till the end, where it sort of fell apart a little bit for him. But the Brazilian certainly one to watch as well. The Lamborghini, though, of VRC has been very strong so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, currently leading the championship, and his nearest rival, Koen Mulder, I can't see him on track. Actually, yes, he is. He's currently fourth fastest, is Koen Mulder in the Ferrari. Can we obviously notice that he doesn't really have the pace over one lap, but he's consistent and he's clean, and that's what's been getting him good results. And he is last season's champion, if I remember rightly, running the 001 number to signify that. He's a very capable driver, isn't he? But it's the consistency that really shines for Koen.
Yeah, very much so, and it's been its trademark as well. It's what won him the championship last season as well. The ability to just be in there race after race after race, and make sure you make it to the end of the races as well. For anyone watching for the first time here on Sim Racers World TV, a warm welcome indeed, and a warm welcome to all our returning viewers as well. We are glad to have you along. I'll just take a few minutes, or a few seconds it's going to take, to explain what this series is all about. As you might have guessed by now, it is a GT3 series, and we're actually just, in quotation marks, running the regular old VRS Sprint Series setup, which means a 50% fuel cap and 45 minutes of racing, which means we'll have a pit stop on the way, Edward, and it's a format you know very well from another series I do commentary upon, the BMW Trophy here on SRW TV, where you're doing quite well for yourself, it has to be said. These feature races running the exact same format, and it does bring out some really good racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, as we see Stuart Jacklin making his way through, as we see what's happened here with Matthew Maddox parked completely in the middle of the circuit through the Fania chicane. Some drivers have to make evasive action. This is Nick McLaughlin. That's just through Blanchard, dipping a wheel left-hand side over onto the curb, sending the car around into a spin. He's going to hope that that doesn't happen to him during the feature race, like you mentioned, during the 45-minute race. One pit stop, like you mentioned, Hasse, is a format I am familiar with in the SRW BMW series, and it's all about trying to figure out when's the best time to take the pit stop, because you can sometimes take it a little bit earlier and get the jump on your opposition and make the undercut. But the flip side of that is that if you go longer, you have you have more time on less fuel, so your car's lighter, should be a bit quicker. But then you might come out in a bit of traffic, or you might come out in a position where you're actually losing time. So it's very difficult to manage all of it, as we see Stephen Orrell now out on circuit. And don't forget as well, Hasse, that this, I believe, is one of the rounds of the championship that is open setup. The first round at Imola, I believe, was open setup. Then the second round at Zandvoort was fixed setup. And then we're back here with open setups, I believe.
And thank you for reminding me about that, because I all but forgot about that aspect of this series, which is very much worth touching upon, because it surely is a dynamic that from race to race we'll see a bit of difference here. Oh, Stephen Orrell. He's now got a team name as DIS Racing. That is Dairy is Scary, which underlines my, and it is affectionately, for me at least, the vegan Mercedes. I do like my greens, my veggies, and a whole lot of other good stuff. And as I was just, one of my good old friends who's a vegan as well, he pointed out to me that French fries are also vegan. So some things I think we can all agree upon. And here's Valdez Suarez Jr., 7th quickest in practice here, coming in towards the end of the session, and quite a bit of traffic here as well. And of course, these practice lap times that are coming in aren't necessarily representative of the running order we'll see in qualifying. Some people could be running their race setup while other people are going for a qualifying practice. But Valdez Suarez Jr. will be hoping that he can get a little bit more pace out of his Ferrari, at least when it comes to the race here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all, though, isn't it, about you can do these times over one lap, but you need to be consistent. And I think it's strange, isn't it? Matthew Forrest, we know he's quick over one lap. Sometimes he's prone to these little mistakes, especially that we saw not last time, at the first round of the championship at Imola. I think we saw him prone to a couple of those little missteps, but he's seemed to have regained his form. And then his virtual racing compound teammate Pete Plasdow in the virtual racing compound Ferrari, and it is basically Ferraris from second all the way down to fifth. They're very strong cars at this circuit, it seems. Got that straight line speed, the ability just to accelerate without trouble off of the slow speed corners. Don't really worry too much about wheel spin or anything like that. They are really motoring along at the moment. In fact, to be fair, the Lamborghini does have quite similar traits to the Ferrari in that respect, where they're just coming off the corners. The Lamborghini, it just has the traction and accelerates like a dream.
Yeah, very much so.
But it doesn't like going into the corners, as we've just seen with Matthew Maddox.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? But just looking at it, and of the first 11 lap times set in practice here, 9 of them set by Ferraris, and just a single Lamborghini, a single Mercedes in there as well. And then from there on downwards, it's all a ragged bunch of BMWs, Audis, a couple of Ferraris as well, a single McLaren. Actually, I'll correct myself on that, because we do have 2 McLarens on the grid. And not on track right now, but we do as well have a single Ford GT, courtesy of Chris Pio for Apex Tech, who is still running the Ford GT. A car that, should be said, has passed into the realms of legaciness quite a long time ago. The same could be said for the McLaren GT3 machine here, but Robert van den Heuvel is sticking with the Mecca, and it does have a fair bit of fandom surrounding it, especially, of course, because of the fact that it spits flames, as you can see here, as the session takes over. And 15 minutes of qualifying is upon us.
Yes, absolutely. Qualifying getting underway now, and I believe it is a qualifying where all of the drivers share the same circuit together, so traffic could come into it, but so as well will the slipstream down the long Kemmel Straight, and also just coming out of La Source on the run into Eau Rouge and Radion. Drivers are going to try and get the optimum track position to make their laps count, but it's going to be tricky, isn't it? There's some quick drivers, there's some drivers that are more consistent. We might be seeing them stumbling over one another in this 15-minute qualifying session.
But it certainly shouldn't be the first time we've seen that, because I think often we've seen a lot of drivers very, very impatient, wanting to maybe get every second out of the session that they can. But we have seen some very, very heavily trafficated opening, well, seconds and minutes of these qualifying sessions. And I think it's not always the way, at least not for everyone, because obviously a lot of time is going to be wasted with the heavy traffic. That's gonna slow everyone down in the end here. Now, I do have a bit of an apology to make, on my part at least, to Luke Schneider, who is of course German, and I've had him in the system as Dutch for some time, and of course that is well, it's excusable if it wasn't for the fact that he mentioned it to me, and then I, like a complete pleb, went and forgot it. Which is, of course, why I think it is due with an apology to Luke Schneider. Funny enough, ha ha ha, not ha ha funny enough, but you know what you say. But it's actually not even in this series. But in the BMW trophy that you were also racing in, Edward, that we do show here every second Wednesday, that is. But Luke Schneider should rest easy and know that it is fixed for next time out. Enough about that, and let's see about lap times coming in. I think the first flying laps are about to commence, and we'll see just who can get the best out of this qualifying session. Here's Dirk Reski.
Look at that, Dirk Reski. He does get out of the way, doesn't he? Sorry, my mic was muted and I was going to try and walk you through some laps, but here we go. Sven Delmans. This isn't his flying lap. This is him coming through Blanchamont for the first time in this qualifying session, getting ready to start a flying lap. And let's have a look at some of the other drivers on flying laps. I think Matthew Forrest is midway through doing a lap. So as well is Valdir Suarez in the nice yellow Ferrari. You're not going to miss it, are you, as he makes his way into Les Combes. Then coming through Melody there. Oh, you can maybe not running as wide, using all of the circuit as you can, whereas in the background we can just see, I think that might have been Cohen Mulder using a lot of the circuit on the exit. Careful though, Cohen, to not extend too far off the track, because you can get yourself a slowdown. This one especially, going out of no name, is very tricky to get right, but he does seem to nail it. Then Puon is one that's very hard to do. You want to take a lot of speed in, but sometimes if you try to do just that, you'll end up washing out wide. Oh, I think Cohen might have just gotten away with that. It was borderline, but I think he might be safe from the off track there. Then of course going into the final chicane, using the curb on the inside. Oh, he didn't use the curb on the inside at all. He went too wide and loops the car around, then rejoins back onto the racing line, but he was sliding on the grass. He couldn't control the car from that point around. Gets the car back up and moving in the end. Look, you just see a replay of it. He's trying to take too much speed in the rear of the car, breaking traction with the front, looping all the way around. He's back up and running. However, Stephen Orell is going to try and complete his first flying lap. I think Matthew Forrest was also on a flying lap. But, oh, look, he's just made a mistake going into the bus stop chicane.
And that is Matthew Forrest indeed, showing the harder sides of the Lamborghini, I believe. Let's just see. Yeah, it was indeed a lap, but 2:23.1. And, well, you'll just have to wonder. There's another Lambo as well of Chris Roberts here from Virtual Racing Compound. Let's see how he fares along. Now, Matthew Forrest has shown that the Lambo does have pace indeed, but so has the Virtual Racing Ferrari of Gaston Macaroni, and those liveries, we've spoken about it before, Edward, but I love the cartoonish kind of font that's going on, and what? I think it doesn't say something new every race. I even tend to believe it does say different things. It has a new sound effect for every race. That's pretty cool. Bit of close battling around the top of the midfield.
Ooh, very close to the top. Pete Plastow only just getting ahead of Gaston Maceroni. Look at the times. They're ever so close, aren't they?
And not only ever so close, they're identical. To be honest, I think Plastow must have been ever so slightly ahead because he is ahead. Otherwise, it would be Macaroni's or Maceroni's. I'm sorry if anybody knows how Gaston's last name is pronounced, then do hit us out. I believe actually in iRacing it's a bit different to real life, because I think in iRacing they, instead of using who did the lap first as a tiebreaker, they do, I believe, who has the higher I rating. Potentially. Well, that's one to wonder a bit about, indeed. We've had a few problems for a few drivers. Here is Mariano Lasarte, and that is a sketchy place to get it wrong. Gets a little bit of a slide, and luckily there's a lot of runoff there on the exit of Radio. And they're all alive and well in the end. Mariano Lasarte currently in third place in the what is that even? Green, dark gray-ish. It is gray, I guess, but it's gray, brown, green-esque. It's sort of in that. Are you ready for the pun? Here it comes. Gray zone. Sorry, I do apologize for my. I'm sorry. Sometimes I even surprise myself on just how low the bar can go, indeed. Indeed, without getting below the waistline. Nick McLaughlin, the Canadian, 5th at the moment in another one of the virtual racing compound Ferraris. A lot of Ferraris, as you said, and we're expecting to see a lot of them at the front of the grid, which also, of course, has to do with the fact that they are indeed the go-to car, you could say, for GT3s at the moment. It seems the BOP ever so slightly favors the Ferrari, and that's not only in terms of top speed, but also in terms of drivability. I think it seems to me that it's the chosen car of the many at the moment. And that, of course, well, it seems to go ever so slightly back and forward. And also, of course, seems to depend on the track. Here is Sandro Orsini in 13th place for the Gabbiano Racing Team. There you see that traffic. Also some very, very close drivers. As mentioned before, the midfield close indeed. A little bit of a surprise to me, but a lot of drivers, and I do mean quite a lot of drivers here, haven't really put in a time yet, it seems to me. But that, of course, while I'm saying it, it springs to mind that it's, of course, because of drivers having gotten off tracks on their flying laps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Matthew Forrest, he's currently sitting down in 22nd place because he did have that little moment going into the bus stop, and I think his lap after that was invalidated for an off track. We just see him now coming through No Name with a very battered and bruised looking Lamborghini making its way off the circuit. It was already damaged before that, and well, Matt Maddox losing the car going through Rivage, then has to try and loop it back around in the gravel, rejoin the track, but make sure he doesn't hamper anyone else's lap. He does so nice and clean. Then we can come back on board with Matthew Forrest. Look at that, he gets nicely over the curb, and he said, washes out a little bit, has to stab on the brakes, doesn't he? It doesn't look like he's at one with the car. He's quick over one lap, but it seems to be a lot of work to get that time out of the Lamborghini. Again, struggling a little bit on exit, not able to put the power down as early as he would like, just taking a little bit too much speed potentially into a lot of these corners. And actually, Pedro Ramon Caldera might be feeling he's getting held up by our championship leader. We can't really see too much on board with the roll bar shot because, well, there's a big bit of scaffolding in the way.
Yeah, that's
onto the brakes, aren't they, into the bus stop chicane now.
That's taking what it says on the package a little bit too seriously there, I believe. I asked for a roll bar cam. It gave me that, but a little too literally, in my opinion at least. I think you would all agree on that. And let's see if we have better luck with the suspension cams here on the Mercedes. As Pedro Marimon Cladera tries to follow around the quick Lambo indeed. And of course there is a lot of time to be gained here down the Kemmel Straight if you can place yourself in the toe of the car ahead. Matthew Forrest did not put in a lap, and I'm wondering if it was a warm-up lap for him, but time is slowly but surely running out, and if he isn't able to put in a lap at all, well, it's going to be rather problematic for the championship leader in the end. Stephen Orell puts a new best time in for himself, a 2:18.46, good enough for 5th, and best non-Ferrari at the moment. So
absolutely
good.
has to be. I mean, I'm having a look at Matthew Forrest's lines here, and they're looking incredibly good. As long as he's able to keep it nice and safe, which he does there going through Peel, and I don't think he picks up any off tracks, then into a corner that's been a bit of a tricky one for him, isn't it? The Fania chicane. No such worries there, no twitch at the front of the car. Now he's going to have to, well, I'll say he's going to maybe worry about traffic, but the traffic gets nicely out of the way. I think that was Niels Cornelisi getting nice out of the way, at least for Matthew Forrest, but I don't think that was too nice for the car behind. Matthew Forrest, though, is looking good, isn't he, to get a quick time on the board. Personal bests, at least in this qualifying session, up until now. What is he going to manage, though, when he comes into the bus stop? Oh, there's a car loose there going through Blanchimont. Oh, my word. And that is, I think, Matthew Forrest's qualifying over, because if he was to pull back into the pits and go around, he won't have enough time for an outlap and then a flying lap. So that is Matthew Forrest, our championship leader, from a teammate nonetheless, Nick McLaughlin. Wow, just loses the car through no fault of his, well, maybe through a fault of his own of getting it wrong, but then as soon as he hits the wall, spits him back out onto the racing line. There's nothing either of the two drivers can really do to avoid it. Oh my word. Matthew Forrest, though, he's going to be rather disappointed, isn't he, with this qualifying session not going the way he'd hoped, sending him, well, into the stratosphere, isn't he? We might need to call up Elon Musk, tell him that we've got a new product, a new thing for SpaceX to maybe try out, because, oh my word, that was a lot of airtime there.
Huge. That is one of the biggest launches I have seen, I think, in my time in iRacing. Oh, and McLaughlin gets it wrong on the outlap as well. Stressful situations, stressful moments here for all involved. And I think a lot of drivers are realizing they're not going to make it. And that goes, I believe, indeed, for, I'm just going to see if it's actually true, but it does go for Matthew Forrest as well. And he's not going to make the lap here. Matthew Forrest is going to start from the very, very back of the grid. Look at this. Cohen Mulder has yet to get a time in as well.
He just needs to make sure he avoids any off tracks at all costs. It doesn't matter if he has to drive at, say, 80 or 90% to do it. He just needs to be very careful, which he is doing now. You can see he's staying very clear of any potential off tracks. This is one that can sneak up on you, and oh my word, Cohen Mulder, he's going to start all the way from the back there as he loses the rear of the car. I don't know if that's going to be an X for loss of control or if he was able to save it just in time, but even if he is, he's not going to be starting up the order like we're expecting him to do, because we do know, of course, Cohen Mulder, championship leader, is very quick behind the wheel. We might be seeing, though, a turn up for the books here with someone new winning a race, because, well, the two main drivers that we're expecting to do very well, both Cohen Mulder and Matthew Forrest, aren't quite in the contention. Well, they're definitely not in contention, are they? For pole position, championship first and second, seemingly way down the order for the start of this third race of the season.
Very much so. It's still Pete Plastow provisionally on pole position with Gaston, we could say, in second place. But on the same time, and here comes Koen Mulder. Is it going to be a counting time? I suppose it is. But let's see where it puts him. 27th, that is. So he's going to be more or less right ahead. He is actually going to be right ahead of Matthew Forrest. Chris Pio, I think, is still on track. He's completing a lap at the very moment here. Macaroni is out as well. And a few drivers. Oh, Pio misses it there. Which leaves the Argentine. Oh, and he's missed the corner as well, I'm afraid. At some point.
Gaston is, I think, just chilling there on the exit of the track. I think he's just quite happy with where he is, and I think he wants a little bit of screen time.
Well, that might be indeed. Well, so be it. He's second here in qualifying. There it is. Maybe he got enough of the attention there, and I think that we're getting closer, at least, to being ready to display you the grid order, with just a few cars choosing to roll about.
I don't think either of these two are on flying laps, though, are they, Hasse?
No, they are not. These are in laps indeed. So drivers just getting the last bits and bumps. Oh, it's probably a good time to get that out the system for Chris Roberts, and hope that doesn't repeat itself in a few moments. Cody Steek is still out there, and so is Dean Pavicic in his BMW, who... And surprisingly so, but let's see here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 drivers here, I think, having not even managed to put in 11. This, of course, with the off tracks being so easy to pick up here at Spa, that if you try to push it, well, it's so easily done. So a fair play in the end, of course. But we will have the grid order coming up on screen shortly. Indeed, just waiting for the last drivers to let the session take over and commence onto race session here. Pavicic has come in. We've got Timo Paya, I believe, and maybe that's Timothy van der Broek still hanging about in the pits, as you can see. And with that, there it is. The grid order, indeed. Pete Plastow for Virtual Racing Compound. They're taking another pole position, although it's not the usual suspect. But Plastow in the 312 car in pole, ahead of Gaston Macaroni for Virtual Racing. And it is indeed 0.003 of a second off there. That's good to know. Valdir Suarez less than a tenth off in third place, ahead of Mariano Lazarte. Then Stephen Orrell and Alfredo Trigorici on row 3. Row 4 is Nick McLaughlin and Martin de Jong for Holy Cow Racing, and then Sander Kaffa and Emanuele Lucioli on row 5. Savino Melillo and Chris Roberts makes out row 6. And then it's Luca Giagliardini and Damian Koba, row 7. Edeso Cornelio and Dirk Reski on row 8. And Sven Dalemans and Nils Konadis on row 9. Robert van den Heuvel and Gaston Bori on row 10. And row 11 is Nuno Vinagre and Sandro Orsini. We've got Timothy van der Broek and Cody Steek on row 12. And then having to scroll down just a little further, there's Luke Schneider, Timo Paya, Koen Mulder there, 27th he is on the grid. That's going to be a little bit of a problem for him. Orkun Kolag is 28th. And then Matthew Forrest, championship leader, 29th as well. Chris Pio is 30th. And then, as you can see, the last drivers having not set times, that's Cladera, that's Godinho, that's Pavicic, Jacqueline, Maddox, Brinksma, and actually Waldron and Federico Carli as well.
Absolutely, but what a big grid, isn't it? What a big turnout there always is for the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters. And well, it is Pete Plastow, as you mentioned, starting from pole position, but there's a whole swarm of Ferraris right behind him. The front 2 rows of the grid completely made up by the prancing horses, but are they going to get away cleanly at the start of the race? The safety car is going to make its way to the pit lane very shortly, and Pete Plasdale follows in behind, as does the rest of the field. The only real standout from this is Stephen Orrell, isn't he? The lone Mercedes doing very well for himself up in 5th place. In fact, the highest placed Mercedes, and I think there's only 3 or 4. I think there's only 3 of them in this series, so he's doing a very good job with an unfavored car.
Yeah, very much so, and it's also just a good mention that anyone can do anything in any car if they have the skill. But let's see who got the skill to take the win here at Spa as we go green, and Pete Plasdale takes it away down towards the source. It's a big field. Let's see if they could all fit in there as Orals on the very inside, maybe trying to defend his position. It's Valdez Suarez ahead of the Argentine. They're also up into 4th place, ahead of Lasarte, who's lost 2 positions. And then let's see further down. Here comes Magaroni up ahead on Valdez Suarez Jr. They're going to go too wide. Oh, they've made contact already. And the Argentine. Oh, and it's going to be terrible. Parked in the middle of the track, and a huge incident. Lucioli losing ground, losing speed here as well. Although I don't think he was the one involved in that situation. Further down, let's just see if
there's Cohen Mulder and Matthew Forrest going wheel to wheel.
Oh yeah, indeed.
And they take out Nuno Vinagre as well in all of that.
Indeed, they made up a lot of positions. Oh, another one.
Oh,
that's Oral. Indeed.
What on earth is happening in this opening few corners? There's still contact going on even further down.
Suarez, who's had a double, he goes off as well alongside Stephen Orrell. And Valdez Suarez, what a nightmare start to this race for him. But I'd like just to catch a glimpse of what happened, because we had
that's a lot of damage. Yeah, that's curtains for Stephen Orrell at the moment. He's gonna have to.
Now look at this one. Macaroni hits the wall out there, comes back on track, and then I think that's Martin de Jong, who has absolutely nowhere to go. Tricarici off track as well. Federico Carli has had a problem at some point. We'll try to keep up with that as the race goes on. But right now, Peter Plasdale is leading Nick McLaughlin. And so it's Virtual Racing Compound. 1st, 2nd, and 4th. Only Mariano Lasarte in his Ferrari breaking out the dominance at the moment. And Alfredo Tricarici has gained positions as well. Chris Roberts has gone well up the field as well. He's gained 8 positions on what has been a very, very, very chaotic opening lap.
Yeah, and Cohen Mulder is actually up 9 positions, but where is Matthew Forrest? I keep my eyes open. He's up 7. So we saw them, I think, fighting together going into Les Comhouse. So I don't know if we have a replay of that either, because there was a bit of drama between the pair of them at the start of the race as well, and that's going to be big, especially for the championship. The 2 drivers coming into this 1st and 2nd had a little bit of a tussle.
Yeah, very much so. I'm just going to see if it's going to be possible to pull that back. And
there was contact involving Nuno in the 999 car as well.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's happened. I might need to do a quick search to just figure out just where that happened. That might be the situation here. Oh, so here we see.
Actually after it.
That was after that, but that's where he's lost a bit of positions there, Matthew Forrest, being picked up in Brussels. Oh, someone's gone around in No Name there as well. As we'll try to do our best to get back to the racing here. Tricarici is close to Chris Roberts, ahead best of the Lambos at the moment. Cornelis up into
And
ninth.
I think Lazarte is close to Nick McLaughlin as well, so there's fighting up in the podium places. But Nils Cornelissi's putting a lot of pressure, isn't he, on the number 12 car? Contact with Savino Melillo, who gets sent off the grass going through Stavolo. And, well, Savino might be feeling a little bit hard done by that because he did give a lot of room down the inside.
And Sven Dalemans. Oh, that's not the pictures we wanted to bring you. There it is. Melillo getting brushed out the way, you might say, ever so slightly. Is going to be saying it mildly, because he got moved, and he got moved out of the way quite a lot, to be honest. But he's back in 13th place now, and as you said, Edward, I'm sure he's not going to be too happy with that. And there is a big bunch of cars all coming up. Here is Alessio Cornelio for the GTWR team. I think he's defending from Luke Schneider, the German. And lap 3, 5 minutes into this race, and it's all happening. It's very hard to actually keep track. And there's been a problem for Timo Paya. Something must have gotten ahead of this, I think. Let's see here. Oh, he goes one way and then he goes the other. And it ends up facing the wrong way indeed. Schneider now going past, I think, on Cornelio at the end of the Campbell Straight. Up into the top 10 for the BMW there, and chasing another BMW. That's the car of Emanuele Lucioli, the Italian, for the Fast and Aged team. It always brings cheesy thoughts to my mind when I get that team name. I mean that in a good way, like a proper good mature cheddar. Lucioli is making a mature move here as well into Pouhon, and not much Nils Cornelis could do about defending that as it goes. And it's a hard place to overtake, but if you do so, you're left on the outside without much of a chance to really defend yourself. And a lot of stuff going on here. Look at Timothy van der Broek in the stage 1 car, getting all involved in the sandwich. And here is Koen Mulder, having made up a lot of positions. He's up into 16th place here.
Wow, what a very good performance by Koen Mulder. You have to wonder now, what would have happened if he was up the order, because he's showing very good pace at the moment. While he is doing very well, he's going to be happy with the performance he's done. His car through the field, it's going to be weighing on him, isn't it? Just a little bit of what might have been running very wide, isn't he, off the circuit? But there's a car even wide off the track. That's Savino Melillo. That's going to give him a good run into the bus stop chicane. No chances further in front, as Pete Plasdow sets the fastest lap of the race so far. The virtual racing compound driver doing very well, isn't he, at the front of the field? And this is Matthew Forrest going side by side into Blanchard. And oh no, Matthew Forrest's evening goes from bad to worse to catastrophic in the first 7 minutes, of this race. It's just really unfortunate, isn't it, for our championship leader, who's shown great pace, but that one little mistake in qualifying has really spiraled out of control.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, look at Cody Steek and the Mercedes, and he's all getting swamped here as Koen Mulder is coming around as well. It's gonna, go around him on the one side, and look at the Ferrari. He's gonna try and pull a Häkkinen. And Timothy van der Broek's having absolutely none of it. Stuck in on the outside. Had a bit of headway there, and nice driving to make it through there. But 2 positions gained in that situation alone there for Koen Mulder, who's now up into 14th place and will probably continue to make gains. And it's looking really strong. Must be mildly frustrated, to say the least, that qualifying didn't pay off in a better way for him here, as Chris Roberts is having his hand full, to say the least, as well.
Yes, he is. Chris Roberts there in the virtual racing compound the Lamborghini, chased by the Ferrari of Alfredo Tucurici, and the Argentine seems to have a very good pace, doesn't he? Coming out of Stavolo on the run into Blanchimont. He could try and put the move on the run into Blanchimont. We already saw what happened last time. We saw two cars go side by side through Blanchimont. I remember in the BMW that I was able to just about pull off a move, but you had to have a lot of cooperation from drivers around you. And I think quite smartly, Alfredo Tricarici backs out of it and instead is going to try and cover off actually potential move from Damien Kober. Wow, very quick, bit of a bump. Yeah, maybe the Polish driver feels a little bit hard done by, but he's still doing a very good job. I mean, to be fair, Alfredo couldn't have gone much quicker because he had the Lamborghini up in front of him. So maybe when he has a look at the replay, he'll realise that it wasn't entirely Alfredo's fault and maybe the headlight flashing wasn't quite needed. But yeah, like we've been saying, Koen Mulder really flying up the order. So as well, though, been kind of flying under the radar, but there's Luke Schneider. He's up 15 places in the Holy Carol Racing BMW.
Yeah. Oh, Federico Carli goes around. And that's not optimal. Indeed, here's Stuart Jacklin. Gets touched, gets tapped, and goes around. And that is not a good place to come back on track. And someone's been picked up in the BMW. And I think that's Dirk Reski as well. That's had a huge shunt. We'll go on board with Reski, and that's a little late to the party that we are. I'll see if I can find it from... There it is. So you can see the Audi spinning. Reski, putting on the brakes, losing the rear end. Maybe just... It's a hard thing to say because gauging a car coming towards the track, towards you, in turn in such a situation is just not an easy thing to do. Here's Nils Connolly's finds himself in front of a charging Luke Schneider. In that bunch is Sander Kaffer as well, the Dutchman, in 10th place at the moment. And I'm having to look down through. But so far, it's been chaotic. Pete Plastow, though, has gotten a very, very good situation for himself here. He's 5 seconds ahead of teammate Nick McLaughlin, who seems to be holding off Lasarte, who's behind as well. And Damien Kober, the Pole, who had a little bit of a touch with Tricarici before, but doing very well for himself. We're not used to seeing him at the pointy end of affairs this way, so I think he'll be very pleased with his race so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's all about thinking about the long game now. You're only 11 minutes, nearly 12 minutes into a 45-minute affair. You're going to have to be a bit smarter, I think, with how you plan the moves. Again, Damien Kober flashing the headlights. It shows that he really wants to get past Alfredo Tricarici, but you're not going to be able to pass just by flashing your headlights, are you? They're not going to fall off the track for you. You need to be quite committed with your moves and maybe try and sell a little bit of a dummy, Hasse, because those moves, they really seem to work into the source. I don't know why. I don't know how I could think of that, how I can remember that, but selling us into the source, it might be the way to go.
Yeah, but it's a good point. But if you get the run from the source and time it right, oh, look at Sander Kaffer getting loose there on the... And that's actually through the camel kink there as Tricarici still in contention for top spots here. So, an interesting fact about Alfredo Tricarici, who's iRaced since March last year, and Alfredo has plenty of trackside experience from real life, having done the 24 hours of Nürburgring on multiple occasions. That is actually quite interesting and says something about the level. It's not all just amateurs. Plenty of drivers in the series know just what they're doing, and I think it also shows just how difficult it can be, Edward, to make that transition from real life racing to the sim, where all of a sudden, obviously, you're going to have a lot less info to feed to your sensory system, and I think, and that's what I've heard as well, that it can be quite hard.
I mean, you're absolutely right there, Hasse. Alfredo Tricarici has done a great job, hasn't he, to transition us. I think we were going to see him try and make a move going into Blanchimont potentially, but look at this. What's happened with Timothy van der Broek? That put an entire pin in the thought. I was thinking about Tricarici. Let's have a look. This was earlier on with Koen Mulder. Oh, Koen Mulder got a little bit of a tap around, potentially. They were just fighting for the same bit of tarmac. Koen Mulder turned in, but the BMW was still there. And oh my word, there's cars going off everywhere we look, because that was what happened to Gaston Bordy, who lost the rear of the car, had a bit of a tap as well, and then managed to get up and moving. I think Alfredo Tricarici, he did manage to get ahead of Chris Roberts just as soon as we switched away, and Matthew Maddox again having a moment, losing his car, and that's Matt looking back into, well, a lot of cars going past him. Just, he gets a snap on the exit and snaps him into the wall.
Yeah, that's it's such an easy thing to have happen to you, and to keep the balance of the car through Blanchemont, or that's especially these mid-engine cars just tend to be really, really difficult to drive. Right there is here Timothy van der Broek, goes around the outside of, well, is that Cornelio? It is indeed. I thought that was the car of Sander Kaffer. You might have me excused for thinking they look a little bit alike. There is Kaffer, and currently in 9th place, and as you see, Cornelio comes around there. Of course, there is a big black stripe, but if you don't quite see that, they are very much indeed orange. Ferraris as Tricarici using the real-life track experience and getting past on Chris Roberts. And I'll see if we can just recall those pictures, because I seem to recall Tricarici being behind, and indeed it's not too long ago we had this overtake. Let's see.
I think this was as soon as we switched away, because he was lining up for a move, wasn't he, going into Blanchemont? Oh my word, he pulled it off. Wow, oh wow. Great pass there from the Argentine.
Brilliant indeed. Brilliant indeed there. And Chris Roberts is not giving up on it though, is he? As Tricarici is making his charge, and further down the order, look at this, here comes Chris Roberts. He's gonna put it on the outside, brakes very late indeed in the Lambo, a little too late you might call it, because he overshoots the corner ever so slightly and lets Alfredo Tricarici up ahead again. Koba still in 6th place, Lucioli in 7th. Luc Schneider is the big jumper of the field at the moment, Edward. He's gained 17 places to be sitting 8th at the moment, and that is an absolutely stunning drive having been put in here by Luc Schneider so far this race in the 150 car. Tricarici putting in time on Chris Roberts up ahead. That gap is up to 7/10 of a second. Here is Gaston Bordy, who's gained 4 places, but we've seen him involved in a few tussles here and there. And Cladera very close to Dean Pavicic as well here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see if Cladera is going to get a good run over Radion. Seems to do just that, but he's actually under a lot of pressure from a driver that got an even better run, and that was Nuno Vinagre in the GTZ Bulls car. Oh, look at that. We're going to see very nice anime Mercedes going down the inside of the BMW, but I think the BMW says, not today, you're not coming through, and you're going to have to stay behind. And this is the bit of the track where it's so much harder to overtake. Nuno can see these two fighting away, but can't really do anything about it just yet. He has got a little bit of damage as well on the front of his car, which could be impacting his straight line speed.
Yeah, indeed. By the way, Pete Plastow put in a new fastest lap on the last lap, and here we have a battle up ahead. Look at this, Cladera's on the outside into Pouhon, which is not the place to be, but that BMW is coming in too hot. And there's been contact, and that's all 2 of them. I was about to say all 3, but Cladera, and just how they made contact is a little bit lost on me. I think they probably should have been able to make it around there, but it wasn't to be so. And I'll see if we can recall the pictures just from a little earlier on. There it is. So is that a net code, or does he spin on his own?
It seems that he spins it by himself, and then coming back onto the circuit, he almost collects Nuno, and then does collect Pedro. So you can see here the rear of the car is got it, so he's to do, might have just tapped a curb or something. He tries to get out of the way. Then he moves back across the circuit one way, taps into the Ferrari, who does a very good job not to spin himself around, and then comes back on again in front of the Mercedes. So the Mercedes thinks he's gone, and then he suddenly reappears once more. Unfortunate for the Spaniard there.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, Chris Robert has been closing the gap to Tricarici. Seems to have a very good run here on the Camel Straight, and I think he's going to launch the move sooner rather than later. Moves out of the shadow, moves out of the slipstream. He's on the inside here into Lecombe. I think that's late, but just about great for Chris Roberts, who goes slowly there on the apex and forces Tricarici to stay behind. No way past that Lambo. It's a wide behind indeed of Chris Robertson, that 77 car, and he moves back up into 4th place. And Edward, that was indeed a very good move.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see a replay of it here. He darts down to the inside, makes his intentions very clear, doesn't he? He doesn't hang about at all. None of this scary side-by-side moments into Blanchard, just a quick capitalization on the slipstream, and then slots himself up in front, parks it on the apex, doesn't give Tricarici any time to slide on by. But during all of this, they're starting to watch the podium positions slip away, because further in front, Alfredo Lazarte and Nick McLaughlin and Pete Plasnow have been kind of in their own little race. This is Sven Dalemans, though, for Holy Cow Racing in the Ferrari. He's having a very good run of things, isn't he? Currently up into 16th place, about where he qualified, just up one position. So he's been nice and consistent, let all of the drama sort of happen around him.
Yeah, indeed. Still watching this battle. Here's Lucioli there, 7th at the moment, and could be in for good things. Pete Plastow is putting a very strong pace down, and that has resulted in a 7-second gap down to teammate Nick McLaughlin, and there's a further 2.5 seconds down to Lazarte in 3rd place. And then, as you said, the that battle for 4th place is indeed watching the leading 3 drive away. For the time being, 7.5 seconds still between them here, and I think, I'm afraid, Federico Carli in the 46 McLaren is having a horrid time here. Oh, getting a little in the way there as he has a crash, and that is not an easy position to get out of. But does pretty well just in terms of getting out the way here. Look at this now. Tricarici is the one nearing the end of his patience. It seems he wants to get back past on that Lambo up ahead, as we are just about halfway through this race. Expected not to be more than a few minutes before we get the entirety of the field more or less into the pits. And those that went in early are probably not going to be able to do the entirety of the race, given that they still cannot put more than half a tank in the car. Damien Kober, the pole, impressive today. Looking really good here, and he's biding his time behind Tricarici, just waiting for maybe for the battle up ahead to take its toll and to present Damien Kober here with an opportunity at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about, isn't it, just staying in position to capitalize on any opportunities that present themselves to you. Damien Kober has been sort of looking at the rear bumper of Alfredo Tricarici for quite some time now, and he might be getting sick and tired of it, and he does get a very good run, doesn't he? Coming out of Stavolo, or maybe Alfredo just gets a very bad run. He's going to try his move now. He's been there for so long. He's forcing the issue down the inside, side by side, and has contact between the pair of them going into, but he comes out in front.
But Lucioli! What was that indeed? That was quite something. So he goes in, they have a little bit of a touch there. Damien Kober goes over the grass. Lucioli tries to avoid, gets taken out. And that is questionable at best, I have to say, because there's no real reason for them to make contact coming into Blanchemont in that situation. Let's try and see this from the perspective of... oh, that's not going to make us any wiser, is it? That was from Stephen Orrell's camera angle, by the way, which isn't really what I wanted.
I'm amazed that we saw Damien Coe was able to take that position, because look, he cuts completely across the circuit and still comes out in front of Tricarici, who then pulls himself into the pit lane. I'm not too sure about that. I don't know if the stewards might have a look at that, because he did basically cut the corner completely and gain a position.
Yeah, that is indeed possible, but I think he didn't want to make that corner cut, but the contact made him cut across. But you could also say that he was the one to squeeze Tricarici himself, and all of that has put a stop to the fun of Alfredo Tricarici here tonight, and it's a little bit of a shame. He was having a very good race. He's out the pit here again, but he's all the way back there in 16th place, which is not where he wanted to be today here. Luke Schneider, by the way, is all up into 6th now. That's 19 places gained for Schneider. It's 16 places here gained for Timothy van der Broek. These two having had an absolute blast so far in the BMWs here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's having a very good run of things. Timothy van der Broek, though, is going to try and have an even better run than Luke Schneider. Look at this down the inside. Is he going to try and make a look? No, he backs out of it. Isn't quite as eager to pass as perhaps some of the other drivers higher up the order, as pit stops have been made, as we mentioned, by the likes of Tricarici, and quite a lot of the field actually opting to take slightly earlier pit stop. Nick McLaughlin, second place driver, I believe, comes on into the pits. Meanwhile, Pete Plasdow stays out in front. Having a very good evening, though, aren't they? Virtual Racing Compound, and they kind of need to, considering one of their big championship hopes of Matthew Forrest is seemingly out of the race. Well, almost before it even begun, wasn't it? The first 7 minutes were absolutely disastrous for our championship leader, and I think Pete Plasdow and Nick McLaughlin are going to try and give something the Virtual Racing Compound to cheer about come the end of the evening. But Carl Mulder, he's going very well, isn't he? Up 22 positions, I believe. Still yet to make a pit stop, however, Hasse, and we should expect him in quite soon as well.
Yeah, indeed. And I think it's only McLaughlin really that's going to go past him, though. Maybe Tricarici, who's been in as well. Tricarici up into 12th now, with a lot of pit stops happening in the top end of things. You can see the damage to Koen Mulder's car. He had that spin. I think he's managed to keep it somewhat clean since that. And 5th place is, well, it's good points for Koen, given that he's had to drive all the way through the field. And then he's had a bit of a touch and a bit of argy-bargy along the way as well. So certainly not a disaster so far. Of course, we've still got just over 15 minutes left to race here, as Jose Godinho finds himself on the rear end of Luke Schneider. And the Portuguese driver for GTZ Bulls is, well, looking and not really finding a way past for the time being. Schneider having been in, Godinho having not been into the pits yet. That is certainly something that should deter him from attacking too hard, because there isn't a lot of gains to be made if you're pitting in anyways. Pete Plasdow pitting in with a 10 seconds advantage on Mariano Lasarte, and let's see if it's going to be that same kind of advantage once he comes out.
Yep, he is coming into the pits just behind as well. Chris Roberts, Virtual Racing Compound, coming into the pits. Timothy van der Broek staying out. I think he's actually gone all the way on this run, so it seems that a few drivers have been able to make the fuel really work, and well, Timothy van der Broek is certainly one of them. Koen Mulder then makes his way into the pits just as one of, I think, Pete Plasdow makes his way out of the pits. Nick McLaughlin as well is carrying on. Gaston Bory for Virtual Racing, I think, is also yet to pit. A lot of drivers really making the fuel strategies work out for them.
Yeah, indeed, we'll have to see just how it goes for them when they come back out from these midway pit stops. Luke Schneider in 8th place at the moment, and having been in, so there are a few places to gain for the German. Koen Mulder back out here, but in 10th place. That's not disastrous, but he might lose the position here to Nils Cornelis in the Audi. Seems to be undamaged, could be better on top speed, but it all depends on the run through these two corners and just how Rouge and I'm sorry, and Blanchemont, or I'm sorry, Rouge Redillon, and indeed Blanchemont, because they do have similarities at least in terms of what speed they're taken at. But they do define a lot of your overtaking opportunities here at Spa because of what follow.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about prepping the move long in advance, isn't it? You can't just try and send it and expect it to work out. You need to really evaluate the driver in front, where they're weak, where they're not, and if they're if they often make covering moves that you can try and use to your advantage, you can maybe try and, like I mentioned, send them the wrong way, send them to go defensive or send them to the outside, then quickly dart to the inside. It's all about finding where they're weak. But once you show your hand once from when you're the car behind, that's it really, isn't it? Especially at a circuit like Spa, with not too many chances to overtake. If you reveal your hand, the drivers that you're racing with can easily find ways to sort of combat that. So you need to almost catch a driver by surprise. As well, maybe we're going to see the BMW try and catch Martin de Jong behind. That was Emmanuel Lucioli in the Fast and Age BMW doing a what would have been an opportunistic pass down into, or maybe an optimistic pass down into Blanchemont, but it doesn't seem to have worked out. And Damien Kober, look where he is. He's all the way down in 19th position. I don't know if drivers in front are expected to come into the pits or not, but this is not the race, or not the position Damien was hoping to be in.
No, I think it's all got to do with the fact that he was involved in a quite calamitous incident not too long ago, and that's surely taken a lot of life out of that car. Here is Gaston Borri, I think one of the last drivers to have to pit alongside the anime Mercedes of Cladera, who's just come into the pit stall, which means that we're going to have the running order restored. Pete Plastow leading, Nick McLaughlin, Mariano Lasarte, Chris Roberts, and Alfredo Tricorici. And those two now separated by a bit of time here. And actually saying that's quite a bit of time between the two. And I'm a little bit surprised to see that. 9 seconds, and wondering just where that came from.
Yeah, absolutely. Timothy van der Broek, though, is very good, isn't he? He's up 17 positions since the start of the race, just behind Alfredo Tricorici here in the Stage 1 Racing BMW. He was closing down, but just through this sector, it doesn't seem to be... Well, it's very strong. Actually, I say that. He's catching back up to Tricorici, so maybe he just had a slightly weak section going through Les Combes. Oh, that is closing right back up. The car looks so stable, doesn't it, going through on in this mid-sector. It's really what the BMW is strong for, is having that consistent stability. It's a nice, easy car to have a handle on. And, well, Martin de Jong, look at that. His car's certainly seen better days. His battered and definitely bruised Audi might be having to worry a little bit about Damien Kober behind.
Yeah, very much so. Oh, Kober! Proving that if he keeps up like that, it's not going to be a worry for Martin de Jong that much longer. That was a huge moment indeed. Lucioli's gone past as well. He's up into 14th. But that's certainly not the race that Emanuele Lucioli wanted. I think he was on for much better things. And it's been a eventful race, to say the least. And not always in the way that we want to see it, because it's been... one of those that just tend to be a tearful affair indeed here. And I think what destiny fell on Emanuele Lucioli seems to describe it pretty well as well. He's coming through Blanchemont, and it's just a few laps ago by now. and having to slow down so much at the exit of the corner that the rear end just went, oh, look at this, here comes Martin de Jong, he's going to be on the outside into the bus stop, and the Audi is not going anywhere. Oh, but he gets collected, and Koba might be getting in the way. That was not really necessary, was it?
Came from a long way back, Damien Koba, and it was just as we saw, well, Martin de Jong turning in for the corner, the nose of the Ferrari. I mean, it's a move you can try and do, take advantage of someone being forced offline, but it was from so far back that I don't really think it was on Martin de Jong's radar that was possibly happening. So, if anything, if that's hurt anyone, that's probably actually hurt the Ferrari driver Damien Koba there, because now he's got Cody Steeg right behind him, as does Tricarici, because he's got Timothy van der Broek right up behind him. And well, that gap has been closing down, as did it lap after lap. Do you reckon we're going to see Timothy try and make a pass soon?
That could very well be. He's got just 10 minutes to go of the race, but he's done a very good job clawing back Alfredo Tricarici. Just having to wonder, that time lost for Tricarici must have been in the slight incident that he had before. So we'll have to see just how this one plays out. It does look good at the moment for Timothy van der Broek. We've had a bit of a problem here for Martin de Jong. I'm wondering if it's just a short excursion, which it certainly looks to be. Yeah, one of them where you'd rather take the incident point than the incident itself, which is obviously also going to cost you a point or more, easily much more, as Tricarici still finds that BMW is just getting bigger and bigger in his mirrors. It's a big car already. Once it gets close, that gets a scary sight indeed. And that car of Timothy van der Broek does look imposing on the Ferrari in front. And he's gaining. It's all about the exit here on the run up towards Eau Rouge, up to Bradion, then in the Camel Straight, which is where you essentially want to line up the pass. Let's see how it goes this time. Looks like Timothy van der Broek gets a good run, and there's time to be gained, and he needs to time this at the very last moment. Tricarici, I think, just far enough to hold on to it for now here, Edward.
Yeah, just for now, but as we were mentioning, that BMW is looking bigger and bigger in the rear view mirrors of the Argentine Alfredo Tricarici. He's under a lot of pressure, and with, like we've mentioning, only about 8 minutes to go in this race now. Oh, it's going to be close, isn't it, between the pair of them? It's very difficult to decide who's going to come on top. This is Sven Dalemans, though. Is he going to have a bit of a moment just going up?
Oh, Orsini was just blinking, that's it. My apologies. Yeah. Sometimes the blinking connections are making a bit of hiccups with our broadcasting.
What's happened there with that?
Oh! Who is that? Who is that? Someone's going...
Was that one of the Holy Cow Racing drivers, potentially?
Was that Luke Schneider?
I don't think so.
I don't think it was either. I think the car is in between, and I think it was a lap car as well, so it might just have been getting out of the way because of... Oh, well, we've had another problem here, I'm afraid, and we're just gonna have a look at it here. So that is Koba on Martin de Jong, and it's not in a place that you want to read where you've had a problem.
Seems to get through nice and safe. There was a little bit of blinking potentially for... I think it's all clean. I can't see anything happening through here. The Audi seems to stay behind nice and cleanly. Martin de Jong, I think they stay... as well, I think Martin de Jong has then found some trouble right afterwards. He's got a tap from, I think that might have been Pedro Cladera, maybe. Yeah, Nuno arrives on the scene and is like, oh, what's going on here? They've got a car park going on. And then has to try and get up and moving again. Yeah, and that was actually, I think, Cody Steeg that might have contacted the rear of Martin de Jong.
So there was something about it. There was something happening, but it's a little different that we maybe expected there. See here Timothy van der Broek with another run on the Ferrari. He's closing, but he's not close enough that he wants to risk it. And now, just 6 minutes left here. And Timothy van der Broek has done a very good race so far, mind you. He's risen up 17 positions. The car behind of Luc Schneider has risen up 18 positions, and Koen Mulder in 8th place has risen up 19 positions as well. So a fair few drivers having had very, very good races indeed. Mind you, a 38 car grid here for tonight. And it's been a hectic one indeed. Alfredo Tricarici is still trying to hold on and trying to use every bit of that real track time experience to keep Timothy van der Broek behind.
Yeah, he certainly is. And I'll tell you what, Alfredo Tricarici looks good, doesn't he, to hold on to 5th position. He's quick going on to these sort of long straights. So any advantage that that Timothy van der Broek, is able to make up, he just isn't able to use to his advantage. Pete Plasdow, with 5 minutes to go, comes across the line once more, saying, very quick lap times, isn't he? Pete Plasdow in the virtual racing compound Ferrari after, I think he had a good, if my memory serves right, had a very good showing at Zandvoort, didn't he? Finishing in 2nd place. And well, look at that, he might be on track for a first. Oh, actually, no, was it Nick McLaughlin that came 2nd in the last race? I don't know. I know it was one virtual racing compound car that was there as well.
Yeah, indeed. And I think there's been a mistake as well, because I was checking through we have this little cheat sheet, and it mentions for Pete Plastow that the unicorn that he has somewhere on the car, which I haven't seen yet. I'm looking for it, so if you see the unicorn anywhere on Pete's car, well, let me know. But states it's the national animal of Scotland, which leads me to believe that he's not an English driver, that Peter Plastow is indeed Scottish, which I've mended. I'll tell you what, I reckon he won't be too excited about that mix-up there, Edward. It's one particular mix-up you, at least normally, want to be a little careful about making. But nonetheless, Pete Plastow, we're racing at his favorite track today here, so there's, of course, a reason that we've seen such a good performance, at least so far. Nick McLaughlin has had a very, very good race as well, been without any drama so far, and I think the same can safely be said here for Mariano Alfredo Lasarte in 3rd place, doing a sterling job as well. Sven Dahlman's 13th at the moment, has done a good job, and I'm afraid we've had a problem here for Orkun Kolak in the number 4 car for Holy Cow Racing. Just gets a little bit of an off-track excursion, nothing dramatic, which is how we want to see it in the end. Cody Steek, Pladera, well, they were all clattered in together not too long ago, that is, as Cody Steek gets a little bit of a bad run, and you're wondering if that's gonna open the door for the Ferrari behind, but no, not really, is it? Saying all that, oh, look at here, Mulder, sorry to cut across there, Edward, but Koen Mulder is really closed up to the rear end of Luc Schneider, and he's having a go already into the bus stop here.
Wow, Koen Mulder, he's not hanging about, is he? He really wants to get ahead of the BMW up in front. He's already made up 19 positions. He wants that to be 20. He's the driver that's gained the most amount of positions from their start since the race began. Look at this. He's going to try and line up for a good run, isn't he, out of La Source? He seems to get it, but he's going to be right up behind, going through Eau Rouge and Radion. Is the aero push going to put him out of contention? I think we still have another lap after this one, so this is the second to last lap of the race for Koen Mulder and Luc Schneider here. And Luc Schneider, he does, doesn't he, get a very good run going up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Sends Koen Mulder back with the aero push, trying to break the toe quite a lot as well, isn't Luc Schneider? He's moving left, moving right, weaving about, sending him to basically copy behind. Pete Plasdow, meanwhile, he's dominated from start to finish, hasn't he? He's from pole position, I think, led basically every single lap. But yes, the fastest lap as well. Great performance from Pete Plasdow as he's going to start, I believe, the final lap of the race.
He's on the pole first straight now, and we're just wondering, 45 seconds? Yeah, that is going to take him across the line indeed. So I would believe here as he's entering Francorchamps. Oh, Dirk Reski has had a problem, I'm afraid. Let's see what happened to Dirk. Oh, it's been a terrible race, I'm afraid, for Dirk Reski. Usually doesn't necessarily have this type of luck every time. Speaking of poor luck, what's happened for Lasarte? Here goes wide, picks up an incident point at the exit of the bus stop, and surely doesn't get any closer by that. And indeed, Plasdow has started the last lap now as the timer ticks over the 45-minute mark, and well, Pete Plasdow is going to see the checkered flag next time around. It has been a brilliant performance so far by the virtual racing compound driver. And a very, very deserved win coming up his way. And let's see if anything is going to change here on that last lap. And I think Cornelis has actually gone past on Luke Schneider. And he very much has. Let's see just what happened here.
Exactly, he just sends it, doesn't it? Oh, that's a bit of a later one. We can see Luke Schneider, he has to back out of it, doesn't he? You can see he's going to turn it for the corner, then quickly he goes, oh my word, he's going it down the inside. He's kind of forced out of the corner, and he's slotting in behind. But look at that, he's not giving up without a fight, isn't he? Is that potentially a slowdown? I don't know, he might just have an off track from that one. We're going to see. Is he closing down? Yes, he is, so he might have just gotten away, pulling now to the outside. Well, this is going to be hotting up really towards the end, isn't it, Hasse? Pete Plasdow, meanwhile, very good currently. And now Luke Schneider serves the slowdown. Oh, my word. And that is going to allow Gaston Bory, is it, to carve around the outside? I think it will do. So Luke Schneider, just the aero push, costs him a position. Or maybe not, actually, because we see him send it side by side. And meanwhile, side by side, look at that. That's Savino Melillo, is it? Or I think that is Savino Melillo. Passing 411th.
Yeah, indeed. On Sandro Orsini, good race there from Sandro Orsini, having gone up from, well, 21st to 11th place. A lot of positions gained to his name. Here's Gaston Bory, having gotten ahead of Luke Schneider, looking to stay ahead for this last lap. And with the checkered flags out, here it is. Pete Plasdow takes his first win of the season here at Spa after a beautifully driven race. And Nick McLaughlin makes it a 1-2 for virtual racing compound. It could have been a 1-2-3 had it not been for another Ferrari, the car of Argentine driver Mariano Lasarte. And then Chris Roberts taking 4th place. And look who's in 5th. That's indeed Alfredo Tricarici, bringing home the privateer Ferrari ahead of Timothy Vanderbroek. It was close, but not close enough. And looky here, 7th place. I'll stop saying that. I'm sorry about that, by the way. Cohen Mulder takes 7th place. That's a very, very good drive. It's not been all smooth sailing for the defending champ. So a good drive from him as well. Nils Cornelis in 8th place. Gaston Bory in 9th. Let's see here. Luke Schneider is going to get 10th. Melillo 11th. I think he's going to get there ahead of Sandro Orsini, indeed. And is there anything really close in behind? The 999 car of Vinagre. Not close enough, though, I think, to Cody Steek to actually make the pass. There's Cladera ahead of Van den Heuvel. Cladera's lost positions, I think, on the last lap, though. Not the best lap for the Anime Mercedes, or the best race that they have had so far. Van den Heuvel past the line. Rob the Lobster, the series boss there, 19th place. Stuart Jacklin gets 20th. And then let's see, Sander Kaffa, I'm afraid, is in the pit lane for the end of the race. Michael Schumacher-esque, maybe he's in to serve a stop and go penalty after the finish line. There's Timo Paya. Chris Pio in the Ford GT, seeing the checkered flag, although a bit of a body panel being squished in on his front left. But kudos for even driving such a car. And here's Cornelio all the way to the line with Luca Gigliardini for 24th place. They're down the line, but not down and out. Edward Action all the way to the line here, as I think the last of the cars are coming across here.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great race we've had this evening, though, at Spa. And Hasse, do you want to talk us through the results?
Yeah, I would love to. As if not, I just did basically, but we'll do a bit of them again here. Pete Plastow for Virtual Racing Compound, winner ahead of teammate Nick McLaughlin, Mariano Lasarte in third, then Chris Roberts as well for Virtual Racing Compound, and then Trickerici there, Alfredo Trickerici in fifth place, Timothy van der Broek sixth, Koen Mulder seventh, Nils Cornelis in eighth, Gaston Boy ninth, Luke Schneider 10th. Melillo 11th ahead of Sandro Hassini, Sven Delmans, Emanuele Lucioli, and Damien Koba, rounding off the top 15. Then Cody Steek, Vinagre, Pedro Cladera, and having to scroll there it is. Robert van den Heuvel, Stuart Jacklin, Timo Paya, Chris Pio, and Alessio Cornelio, with Luca Gigliardini and Sander Kaffa, rounding off the top 25. Then Gary Waldron, Jose Godinho, Orkun Kolak. And another scroll needed by me. There's Stephen Orrell in 29th. It looked so good for the vegan Mercedes. It wasn't to be in the end. Same for Martin de Jong there. 30th place for him. Dean Pavicic in 31st. Ahead of Federico Carli, Dirk Reski, Matty Maddox, and Dirk Brinksma. And rounding off the field, Matthew Forrest, Gaston Macaroni, and Valdir Suarez Jr. So 3 of our top contenders at the 3 bottom places here. And this certainly was a hefty race in that sense, Edward.
Yeah, absolutely was. It was a really great evening's race, and there was a lot of drama, wasn't there? Especially with huge ramifications for the championship. Matthew Forrest, our championship leader, coming into this, well, finishing really far down, isn't he? Finishing in 36th. As you mentioned, Hasse, we do have, of course, our race winner in the comments box with you now, Hasse.
Yeah, we do have Pete Plastow in here. Peter, welcome to. Congratulations on a brilliant performance on what I can understand is indeed your favorite track. And I think that today very, very much showed. It looked like smooth sailing for you out there. Was that how it felt for you?
It was. It was once I got away at the beginning there. I got a little gap and I managed to hold on to it. I think a few people behind me had a few issues, which helped me out. I know Matt Forrest was very fast in practice, but he had a terrible qualifying, so he couldn't really affect me at the beginning, unfortunately. Unfortunately for him, fortunately for me.
Well, indeed, and well, that leads me on to my next question. A lot of drivers seem to have a very tough time sort of settling into the race here, and we know, seen this at Spa many times before, and there were some big incidents indeed along the way, and you stayed clear of those. Are there any particular secrets to keep it on the grey stuff here at Spa?
I think not chasing time is a big one. As soon as people start chasing time, you're going to make mistakes. I try to just be smooth and steady, and the time comes, and the lap times come with that. I'm not really quick. It's a bit of a downfall of mine, but I can be quite consistent, and that's what I aim to do. That's how I tend to get my results.
And looking at the championship standings, it's all going to be very close after this round, but you're very much going to be up there, and you're going to be in with an absolute shout for staying in contention for the rest of the season. How are you going to approach that coming title fight on points?
Much the same way, just one race at a time, and just take the points when I can. A lot of it, Matt Forrest is a lot quicker than I am normally. So basically, when he fails, I need to be there to mop up the points that he doesn't get. and that'll be my tactic really for the rest of the season.
Very much so, Peter. Thanks for joining us for an interview here post-race, and well, congratulations on a perfect win, a very good result indeed. Before we let you celebrate in style, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to?
Just thanks to my teammates at Virtual Racing Compound. They're always there, and they help me out a lot with lap times and things like that and racing. Other than that, just thanks to Robert for hosting it. I enjoy this league a lot, and it's great fun.
Well, thanks, Pete, and thanks for dropping by for a post-race interview. Hope to have you by here for another chat indeed soon.
Thank you very much.
So that was Pete Plastow, and we're gonna waste no time dragging second place finisher and teammate of Pete's in here as well. It's Nick McLaughlin, ready to have a chat with Edward May.
Yes, welcome to the booth, Nick. And, well, if I'm not mistaken, that is your first podium of the season. Congratulations.
Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks for having me. It's a hell of a race.
Absolutely, it certainly was. There was a lot of drama at the start as well. What was it like from your perspective, just of everything that happened?
Scary. I going up through Eau Rouge, we had, I think it was Massaroni got off to the side. I don't know how I got missed, and then another interesting maneuver ahead of me that managed to squeeze me up into P2 on lap 1, and I just kind of stayed there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think you'll be the first to admit you've shown promise in the opening rounds, but you just haven't quite had the luck your way. Is this maybe a turning point for you in the championship?
One can certainly hope so. I think, as Pete was saying, Matt will be up here. It's really unfortunate he missed out on qualifying and got caught up in a wreck. But I'm hoping to be up here for the rest of the races.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the rest of the races, I can't actually remember when the next round is, but it is fixed setup. Is that something you feel you're stronger at, or is the fixed setup one something you're less confident with?
These Ferraris have a pretty good baseline setup to work with. I've actually been tinkering a lot more with my own setups lately rather than using anyone else's, so the baseline's gotten more comfortable recently. So I hope for a good performance.
Okay, and I've just had to check. It is Brands Hatch. Is that something you're looking forward to?
Oh, it's going to require some practice, I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you very much. Congratulations on your second place finish, Nick. But before we say goodbye, is there anyone you'd like to shout out here on the broadcast?
Yeah, cheers, Ed. Shout out to you guys. Watch these broadcasts back every night. They're fantastic work. Shout out to Virtual Racing Compound, our team as well. And of course, Robert, for hosting this excellent series.
Well, thank you very much, Nick. That was Nick McLaughlin in the comms box with us this evening. And, well, I think that sums up, doesn't it? A great evening's racing. 2 Virtual Racing Compound drivers on the podium. But it wasn't, well, one of them wasn't the driver we were expecting coming into this, Matthew Forrest. It was quick in practice, but qualifying sent him down the order. And that really spiced up the field for the rest of the race, Hasse.
It very much so did, and it was a race that really took some casualties, took no prisoners in the opening 10 minutes. Took a bit of work settling down, you could say, but from there on, well, there was only really one winner, wasn't there? And a beautiful race by both top 2 finishers. I can understand the words of Nick there that he thought it was scary on the opening laps. He really had to make his way through a lot. So we can see Lucioli in the 120 there making a bit of contact we did not see on the opening lap here. I'd like to extend my thanks to the serious sponsors. That's, of course, SimracerCoin and Driver61 for their sponsorship. And, of course, thanks to you, Edward, for joining me in the booth here for yet another round of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Hasse. It's been great to be with you here at Spa for the 3rd round, and in a couple weeks' time, we're going to be moving off to Brands Hatch, aren't we, Hasse? And that is something I cannot wait for.
Oh, and neither can I. Brands Hatch, certainly one of my absolute favorite circuits. It is one of the holy grails of racing, I'd say, and it's, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be great indeed. And of course, before I forget, also a very big thanks to everyone tuning in with us tonight. Such a pleasure having you all along for the ride. Yeah, a big thanks for that indeed. If you enjoyed it, do give us a thumbs up on the like. And if you want to see more, well, feel free to subscribe to SimRacers World in the case that you haven't been here before and isn't already a long time subscribee of us. Anyways, I would just like to bring your attention to the coming week's worth of broadcasting action here on the channel. Going on right now, actually, you can catch the Apex Tech League with LMP2s at Le Mans. That's with Chas Dracot. And another Jack. We've got a lot of Jacks now. We've got a third Jack joining the broadcast squad. But that's going on right now. And for about an hour's time, I believe. Tomorrow, I will be in with Jack Oliphant for the finale, the season finale of the SRW NASCAR series. Tuesday, it's going to be Chas Dracot and Peter Mackay in for the scintillating racing that is the SRW TCR series. Wednesday, we got one of our biggest regular fixtures, the Porsche Club GB series. That is, of course, a Porsche Cup series as well, with the SRW F3 series on Thursday. So a lot of stuff to catch up on, well, over the space of the week, and a lot of entertainment coming your way. And with that said, from myself and from Edward May, I think all that remains to say is thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, here on SimRacers World, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.